This is gonna blow your mind. Welcome to Planet Pulse, your portal to the world's most fascinating discoveries. If you're passionate about history, mysteries, and the secrets of the ancient world, you're in the right place. Make sure to subscribe and join our community of explorers as we dive into the greatest archaeological enigmas ever uncovered. Everybody is looking for Cleopatra's lost tomb, but what if the greatest archaeological mystery is still waiting to be uncovered? Cleopatra was more than just a queen. She was a force of nature, a scholar, a commander, and the last active pharaoh of Ptolemaic Egypt. Her life was a tapestry of power, love, and political genius, woven with threads of both Roman ambition and Egyptian tradition. She commanded fleets, spoke multiple languages, and held the mightiest men in the world in her thrall. Her death was as dramatic as her life. Faced with defeat at the hands of Octavian, she chose her own end, rather than be paraded through Rome in chains. According to legend, she died by the bite of an asp, a symbol of divine royalty. Yet, her final act of defiance was not just her death, but the complete disappearance of her final resting place. The mystery of her tomb began the moment she died. The Roman historian Cassius Dio tells us that Octavian, despite his victory, wanted to give her a royal burial. He ordered that she be laid to rest beside her great love, the Roman general Mark Antony. It was meant to be a grand mausoleum, a testament to her status even in death. But where was it? For 2,000 years, treasure hunters, scholars, and dreamers have scoured the earth for it. They have looked in the submerged ruins of ancient Alexandria and across the vast windswept deserts. The tomb of Cleopatra, housing the bodies of two of history's most iconic lovers, became the ultimate archaeological prize, a secret locked away by time itself. Finding this tomb would be more than just a discovery. It would be like finding a key to the ancient world. Inside, we might find artifacts that could rewrite what we know about her reign. We could find texts that tell her story in her own words, not through the biased lens of her Roman enemies. The tomb would be a direct link to the woman behind the myth, a chance to understand the true Cleopatra. She was a brilliant leader who navigated a treacherous world, a mother who fought for her children's future, and a ruler who deeply identified with the goddess Isis. Her tomb is the final, unread chapter of her extraordinary life, a chapter that has remained tantalizingly out of reach. The search is not just about gold or glory, it is about connection. It is about touching the past and feeling the presence of a woman who shaped history. The legend says, her tomb is protected by ancient magic, but the real obstacle has been the shifting landscape of Egypt itself. Earthquakes have sent entire cities into the sea. The Nile has changed its course. New cities have been built over the old ones. The search for Cleopatra's tomb is a race against time and nature, a quest to find a single sacred spot in a world that has been constantly changing for 2 millennia. It is a puzzle with pieces scattered across history, myth, and the very ground beneath our feet. For centuries, the search for Cleopatra's tomb was a story of frustration and failure. Early historians and geographers left tantalizing but vague clues. They wrote of a magnificent tomb near a temple of the goddess Isis, located in the royal quarter of Alexandria. But which temple? And where exactly was the royal quarter? The ancient city of Alexandria was a sprawling metropolis, a beacon of culture and learning. Over time, however, it suffered a cruel fate. A series of devastating earthquakes and tsunamis in the 4th and 5th centuries sent large parts of the city plunging into the Mediterranean Sea. Palaces, libraries and temples, including many believed Cleopatra's mausoleum, were lost to the waves. This belief that the tomb was submerged led to countless underwater expeditions. Divers descended into the murky waters of Alexandria's harbor, navigating a ghostly world of fallen columns, broken statues, and the outlines of ancient buildings. They found sphinxes, pieces of what might have been the famous Pharaoh's lighthouse, and other remnants of Ptolemaic glory. Yet despite these incredible discoveries, there was no definitive sign of a royal tomb. The sea guarded its secrets well. The search was like trying to read a book with pages torn out and scattered across the ocean floor. Every promising discovery only led to more questions, and the trail to Cleopatra always went cold. Other searchers turned their attention to the land. They followed the accounts of the Arab historian al-Masudi, who wrote of finding wondrous things in the tombs of the pyramids. But Cleopatra was a Ptolemaic ruler, a descendant of Greek Macedonians, not an Old Kingdom pharaoh. Her burial practices would have been a blend of Egyptian and Hellenistic traditions. She would not have been buried in a pyramid at Giza or Saqqara. This misunderstanding led many astray, sending them on fruitless quests deep into the desert, far from the likely location of her tomb. The centuries passed, and the tomb remained a phantom, a story told and retold, but never verified. The riddle of the tomb's location was made even more complex by the lack of any solid evidence. No contemporary accounts gave a precise map. No inscriptions found elsewhere pointed the way. It was as if history itself had conspired to keep the queen's final secret. Generations of archaeologists came and went, each with their own theories and hopes. They dug in the city, dived in the sea, and consulted ancient texts, but Cleopatra remained elusive. The tomb became more than just a missing structure. It became a symbol of the ultimate historical cold case, a mystery so profound that many began to believe it would never be solved. The queen, it seemed, had vanished as completely in death as she had been vivid in life. The story took an unexpected turn in the late 20th century. It was not an ancient text or a diver's discovery that provided the next clue, but the cold, impersonal hum of modern technology. During the height of the Cold War, a team of Soviet scientists was in Egypt, ostensibly for a geological survey. They were using advanced ground-penetrating radar and seismic equipment to map the subterranean landscape west of Alexandria. Their mission was likely multifaceted, with political and military objectives hidden beneath the scientific ones. They were looking for oil, water, or perhaps even secret underground military installations, but what they found was something else entirely, something that did not fit any known geological patterns. The Soviet team detected a series of strange signals coming from deep beneath the desert floor. These were not random anomalies. The signals formed a distinct grid-like pattern that suggested something man-made. They indicated the presence of large, hollow chambers and long, straight tunnels buried under meters of sand and rock. The area was vast, covering several square kilometers. It was like finding the blueprint of a hidden city. The signals were clear and persistent, pointing to a massive, complex structure that had no business being there, at least according to existing maps and historical records. The desert, it seemed, was hiding something of immense scale. However, the discovery was shrouded in the secrecy of the era. The Soviet team logged their findings, but the data was not widely shared with the international archaeological community. The political climate was tense, and collaboration between East and West was limited. For a time, the strange signals remained just that, a classified curiosity in a dusty government file. The whispers from beneath the earth went unheard by the people, who would have understood their significance. The world continued to search for Cleopatra in the waters of Alexandria, unaware that the desert held a clue of monumental importance. The potential breakthrough was put on hold, a secret buried as deeply as the structures it pointed to. Years went by, and the Soviet Union eventually collapsed. The Cold War ended, and with it, the strict secrecy that had once defined it. Information began to flow more freely. The story of the strange subterranean signals slowly emerged from the archives, passed from one researcher to another. It was a tantalizing piece of a puzzle, but without the original data or the precise location, it was little more than a rumor. The political and historical events of the late 20th century had inadvertently delayed the investigation, adding another layer of lost time to the 2,000-year-old mystery. The desert kept its secret a little longer, waiting for a new generation of explorers with new tools to listen to its whispers again. Decades after the Soviets first detected the underground anomalies, the mystery was reignited by a new kind of eye in the sky. Advanced satellite technology, capable of seeing the world in ways previously unimaginable, was turned toward the Egyptian desert. Scientists using thermal imaging satellites scanned the area west of Alexandria, the same region where the strange signals had been reported. Thermal imaging can detect subtle variations in temperature on the ground. Man-made structures, even those buried deep underground, retain and release heat differently than natural soil and rock. They leave faint thermal ghosts on the surface, invisible to the naked eye but clear as day to the sensitive satellite sensors. The satellite images revealed something astonishing. In the barren expanse of the desert, they showed the faint but unmistakable outline of a massive buried complex. The heat patterns formed straight lines, sharp corners, and large, rectangular shapes, the telltale signs of human construction. It looked like the ghostly image of a planned city, or a grand temple complex, spread out over a huge area. These thermal signatures matched the grid-like patterns the Soviets had detected years earlier. It was the corroborating evidence that archaeologists had dreamed of. The rumor was no longer a rumor, it was a verifiable, visible phenomenon, a map to an unseen world. But the satellites revealed something even stranger, a phenomenon that defied easy explanation. When scientists looked at time-lapse thermal images, they saw that certain spots on the ground appeared to be breathing. These areas would warm up and cool down in a rhythmic cycle, like a slow, steady pulse. The ground temperature would rise, then fall, over and over again. This suggested that air was moving in and out of the ground. It was evidence of ventilation shafts, openings that connected the deep buried chambers to the surface. Whatever was down there was not just a static ruin, it was a complex system designed to have airflow, to breathe. This breathing ground phenomenon was both eerie and exciting. It hinted at a sophisticated level of engineering. But there was another layer of meaning, one rooted in ancient Egyptian beliefs. The number of these breathing spots was significant. Early analysis suggested there were 42 of them. In the Egyptian Book of the Dead, the soul of the deceased had to face 42 divine judges in the afterlife. Each judge represented one of the 42 sins a person must declare they have not committed. The presence of 42 ventilation shafts could be a symbolic representation of this journey through the underworld. It was a stunning convergence of modern science and ancient cosmology, suggesting the site was not just a city, but a place of immense religious and funerary importance. The convergence of old Soviet data and new satellite imagery created a powerful case for a ground investigation. The evidence was just too compelling to ignore. Scientists and archaeologists finally had a precise target, a specific patch of desert that hummed with secrets. They arrived on site, armed with the latest geophysical survey equipment, ready to peer beneath the sand without digging a single hole. They used ground-penetrating radar, GPR, a technology that basically sends radio waves into the earth and reads the echoes that bounce back. This creates a three-dimensional map of what lies beneath, revealing walls, chambers and tunnels with remarkable clarity. The team meticulously scanned the area, moving their equipment back and forth across the desert floor. The results that appeared on their screens were, honestly, breathtaking. The GPR confirmed the satellite data and added a stunning level of detail. It showed a massive network of underground structures. There were long, straight corridors, some stretching for kilometers. There were large, rectangular chambers that could be tombs or ritual spaces. The data painted a picture of a vast necropolis, a city of the dead, hidden just a few meters below the surface. The sheer scale of it was overwhelming. It was larger than anyone had dared to imagine. As they analyzed the GPR scans, the team's excitement grew, but it was tempered with caution. Archaeology is a slow, painstaking process. A blip on a radar screen is not the same as an artifact in your hand. They had to be certain of what they were seeing. They cross-referenced their findings, checked their equipment, and ran the scans again. Every test confirmed the initial results. The structures were real. The team felt the immense weight of the moment. They were standing on top of what could be one of the most significant archaeological sites on the planet. The lost tomb of Cleopatra, once a distant dream, now felt tantalizingly close. The breathing ground was of particular interest. On site, the team could feel the faint movement of air coming from small fissures in the rock. The air smelled old, musty, and cool, a clear sign of large, empty spaces below. The scientists theorized that the daily temperature changes on the surface were causing the air inside the cooler underground chambers to expand and contract, creating the breathing effect. This natural ventilation system, whether intentional or accidental, had helped preserve whatever was down there. The excitement was palpable. They were no longer just chasing a legend, they were following a concrete scientific roadmap to a hidden world. At the heart of this unfolding mystery was a remarkable archaeologist named Dr. Kathleen Martinez. For years, she had been a dissenting voice in the search for Cleopatra. A lawyer from the Dominican Republic turned Egyptologist, Martinez had a different theory. While most scholars were focused on Alexandria, she was convinced that the key lay elsewhere. She had spent years poring over the ancient texts, especially the writings of Plutarch. She believed that Cleopatra, who identified herself with the goddess Isis, would have wanted to be buried in a place deeply connected to the Isis and Osiris myth, the foundational story of death and resurrection in Egyptian religion. Martinez's research led her to a specific location, a ruined temple complex about 45 kilometers west of Alexandria called Taposiris Magna. The name itself means Great Tomb of Osiris. According to myth, it was one of the many places where a part of Osiris's dismembered body was buried after he was murdered by his brother, Set. For Cleopatra, who saw herself as the living embodiment of Isis, burying herself near her divine husband Osiris would have been the ultimate religious statement. It would have been a way to ensure her own resurrection and deification in the afterlife. It was a brilliant and compelling theory, but one that many mainstream archaeologists initially dismissed. When the satellite data and GPR scans pointed to massive underground structures right at Taposiris Magna, Martinez's theory was spectacularly vindicated. The science was confirming the myth. The location that her scholarly intuition had identified was the same spot where technology had revealed a hidden world. It was a breathtaking moment of convergence. The long-shot theory of a passionate outsider was now at the center of the most exciting archaeological investigation in decades. She was given permission to excavate, to finally break ground and see if the structures below were indeed connected to the last queen of Egypt. The excavation began with a sense of immense anticipation. The team, led by Martinez, started by clearing the area around the temple. They knew from the scans that the entrance to the underground network was likely hidden somewhere within the temple's sacred grounds. They worked carefully, documenting every stone and shard of pottery. They were not just digging for a tomb, they were uncovering the story of this unique temple. Taposiris Magna was a place where Egyptian and Greek cultures met. It had the layout of a traditional Egyptian temple, but was filled with art and architecture that showed a clear Hellenistic influence, perfectly mirroring Cleopatra's own mixed heritage. The Temple of Taposiris Magna was a treasure trove of clues. As Dr. Martinez and her team excavated, they uncovered artifacts that painted a vivid picture of life and death during Cleopatra's reign. They found a series of headless statues of pharaohs, suggesting a deliberate desecration after the Roman conquest. More importantly, they found a trove of 200 coins bearing Cleopatra's image. One side showed her distinct profile, with her hooked nose and determined chin, while the other side bore the inscription Cleopatra Regina, or Queen Cleopatra. These coins were like ancient business cards, stamping her presence and authority directly onto the site. The discoveries went deeper. The team found a foundation plaque, a stone placed during the temple's construction, which proved it was built during the reign of Ptolemy IV, one of Cleopatra's ancestors. This confirmed the temple's Ptolemaic origins and its importance to her dynasty. But the most personal artifacts were still to come. Inside the temple grounds, they unearthed a beautiful bust of the queen, a rare and lifelike portrait that captured her intelligence and charisma. Finding such a personal item, along with the coins, strongly suggested that Cleopatra had a deep and personal connection to this temple. It wasn't just a random place of worship, it was a site she patronized and likely visited. One of the most significant finds was a series of inscriptions written in two languages, Egyptian hieroglyphs and ancient Greek. This dual-language script was a hallmark of the Ptolemaic period, a time when two powerful cultures were merging. Cleopatra herself was a master of this cultural fusion. She was the first Ptolemaic ruler to learn the Egyptian language, a move that endeared her to her native subjects. The inscriptions at Taposiris Magna were a physical manifestation of her identity. They spoke of rituals related to Isis and Osiris, blending Greek and Egyptian religious ideas in a way that was unique to her era. They were a direct linguistic link to her world. The scientific evidence also began to pile up. Analysis of pottery shards revealed traces of resins and spices, like myrrh and frankincense, which were used in the mummification process. While these materials were common in many burials, their presence in such a grand temple complex, combined with all the other clues, was highly suggestive. Each artifact, each coin, each inscription was a breadcrumb leading them closer to the queen. The temple was not just a place of myth, it was a working religious center intimately connected with the very ruler they were searching for. The evidence was building a powerful, circumstantial case that they were in the right place. The moment of truth arrived when the excavation team located the entrance to one of the tunnels pinpointed by the GPR scans. It was hidden beneath the temple floor, a vertical shaft leading down into the darkness. The air that rose from it was cool and ancient. Using ropes and lights, the team carefully descended into the earth. The shaft opened into a long, rock-cut tunnel, just as the scans had predicted. it stretched out before them, a perfectly straight corridor carved deep into the bedrock. It was an incredible feat of engineering, a testament to the skill and determination of its builders. As they explored the tunnel, their lights danced across the walls. The passage was narrow and tall, descending at a slight angle, deeper underground. It was not a natural formation. The tool marks of its creators were still visible on the stone. The team moved with a mixture of excitement and reverence. They were the first people to walk this path in 2,000 years. Every footstep echoed in the profound silence. The tunnel was a time capsule, a sealed passageway leading away from the world of the living and toward the world of the dead. It felt like they were walking directly into the pages of the Book of the Dead. Deeper inside, the main tunnel branched off into smaller chambers and side passages. The complexity of the network was astounding. It was a subterranean labyrinth, a necropolis, far more extensive than they could have imagined. In some of the chambers they found skeletons and ceramic fragments, indicating that this was indeed a burial ground. These were likely the graves of nobles or high priests who had served at the temple. But the main prize, the royal tomb, still lay ahead. The main tunnel continued its descent, leading them toward a much larger anomaly detected by the radar, a massive chamber deep within the earth. The tension mounted with every step. The team knew they were approaching something of immense importance. The air grew colder, and the sense of anticipation was almost unbearable. They were following a path laid out by ancient engineers, guided by modern science, all in pursuit of a legendary queen. The discovery of the tunnels was the critical breakthrough. It transformed the search from a surface excavation into a journey into the underworld itself. They had breached the perimeter. Now they were inside the complex, moving ever closer to its central secret, a secret that had been guarded by the desert for 20 centuries. The final chamber has not yet been opened. The excavation at Taposiris Magna is ongoing, a slow and delicate process. The archaeologists know that the final resting place of a queen like Cleopatra would be protected, not just by myth, but by ingenious engineering. There could be false chambers, hidden traps, or structural weaknesses. They must proceed with the utmost care, ensuring that they do not destroy what they have come so far to find. The suspense is a character in itself, as the world watches and waits for the moment when the last door is opened, and the secrets of the tomb are finally revealed. Whether it holds Cleopatra and Antony or not, the site has already reshaped our understanding of her era. The search for Cleopatra's tomb is a perfect illustration of how legend and science can work together to illuminate the past. It began with a myth, a story passed down through generations. This myth inspired a scholar, Dr. Martinez, to look beyond conventional wisdom. Her conviction was then tested and confirmed by the most advanced technology of our time, satellites that can see heat through the ground and radars that can map hidden worlds. It is a story of human curiosity, where an ancient queen's desire for eternal life is met, 2 millennia later, by our own desire to know and understand our shared history. Cleopatra's story continues to fascinate us because it speaks to so many timeless themes: power, love, identity, and defiance. She was a woman who ruled in a man's world, a brilliant strategist who dared to challenge the power of Rome. She was a mother fighting for her children and a ruler who embraced her culture with a passion that her predecessors lacked. Her decision to control her own death and the location of her burial was her final act of agency, a refusal to let her enemies write the last chapter of her story. Finding her tomb would give her a voice again, allowing us to see her not as a caricature, but as the formidable leader she truly was. As of today, December 3rd, 2025, the mystery remains unsolved, but the pieces are all in place. The blend of ancient texts and satellite data, of archaeological intuition and geophysical surveys, has brought us to the very threshold of discovery. The legend of Cleopatra is no longer just a story in a book. It is a tangible place, a breathing desert, and a network of tunnels waiting to be fully explored. The queen who became a legend may have hidden herself from the world, but she left behind just enough clues for a future generation, our generation, to find her. The search is a testament to her enduring power, a power that reaches across the centuries and still holds us completely captivated. Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey here on Planet Pulse. If you enjoyed exploring the mysteries of Cleopatra's lost tomb, be sure to subscribe, like, and hit the notification bell so you never miss our next adventure. Here on Planet Pulse, we in Wunandri Budimurin bin we orindan. Bowen win gan. Badurin breathin so world. World's greatest mysteries, lost civilizations, and the wonders of science, one adventure at a time. Dive into our other videos to uncover more secrets from history and beyond. Subscribe now and become part of our community of explorers. Your next discovery is just a click away, only on Planet Pulse.